that time again when we break out the costumes and have some fun for Halloween. Thank you for tuning into Bridgewater Now Update. I'm Dorothy, joining you from the Yellow Brick Road. This is a great time on the calendar because the leaves are changing, truckloads of candy will be handed out, but we can't forget the best part, ghost stories. We were going to have our cowardly lion take care of this story, but I think he may have run away. Wait, he ran where? Newton? Luckily, I love a good ghost story, so this is a great chance to talk to you about this thing you may have heard about once or twice, the Bridgewater Triangle. One of the more interesting and spooky aspects of Bridgewater's history is the town's involvement in the Bridgewater Triangle. With the most commonly accepted boundary points of Abington, Freetown, and Rehoboth, the Bridgewater Triangle is a 200 square mile part of southeastern Massachusetts that is known for some unexplained paranormal, extraterrestrial, and cryptozoological encounters. Among many of the different areas that have been most active is the Hockomock Swamp, and more specifically, Lake Nipponicket right here in town. Near and on the lake itself, there have been sightings of Bigfoot, giant snakes, large orange ape creatures, and giant birds that are referred to as thunderbirds that some people believe resemble pterodactyls. Also reported on the lake was phantom fires that left no damage behind. While the reasoning behind why the area of the Bridgewater Triangle is so dense with paranormal activity is debated, one of the most discussed reasons is a Native American curse left behind by the Wampanoag tribe. In 1675, after the death of his father Massasoit, the new tribal leader Metacom decided to take action against the colonists that violated a treaty that had been established between the two groups. This resulted in the outbreak of King Philip's War. During the war, Metacom, who was also referred to as King Philip by the colonists, used the Hockomock Swamp as his base of operations during the conflict. Hockomock, which means place where spirits dwell in Algonquin, was incredibly sacred to the Wampanoag tribe, which is why many believe that the defeat of the tribe and Metacom's eventual execution at the end of the war is the reason for the unexplained happenings in this area. Of course, the happenings of the Bridgewater Triangle reach out further than the confines of Bridgewater itself. Other hot spots include the Fall River Freetown Forest, the Rehoboth-Seekonk Town Line, and Taunton State Hospital, to name a few. This Halloween, if you're looking for places to have a spooky time, the Bridgewater Triangle has plenty to offer. Do you have a story about an unexplained encounter in the Bridgewater Triangle? If so, we want to hear about it. Email me at the address below if you're willing to share your experience on a future program.
It was fun.
The news?
News?
Yeah, your job?
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh!
Nothing in there.
Scarecrow, I forgot.
Right.
Popcorn?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. Well, now that you got the nightmare fuel covered with the pterodactyls, the fire lakes, and all that fun stuff,
Right.
I'm going to talk about the graveyards, if you don't mind. I talked with a Bridgewater resident who runs a history mystery walking tour, which includes a walk through a gravesite that dates back to the 1740s. You sure you don't want any?
I'm positive, thank you.
Lori Hartree has been sharing stories of Bridgewater's past from as far back as the 1700s, including a couple paranormal stories over the last 10 years as part of her History Mystery Walking Tour. There is a cost, but 100% of those proceeds raised, including this year, went to 3 local causes: the Bridgewater Academy Lions Club Charities, VFW Post number 2125, and the Robert L. Smith Jr. Memorial Scholarship Fund. Lori told me that this is a group effort with about 25 people behind her, including Mark Chapman of Chapman Funeral Home, Hank Esterbrook, whose facility is a tourist site with some paranormal stories associated with it. Town Clerk Marilee Hunt and Carlton Hunt were included in that group with thanks for making the Academy building available and including a couple stories as well. And Lori's husband Dave helps, including making the Fellowship Lodge available. For 30 years, this Bridgewater Academy Club member discovered that there were niches that helped raise money for the group, so Lori put her love for ghost tours and knowledge of Bridgewater's past to use.
Well, I've been a Bridgewater Academy Lion Club member for the past 30 years, and everybody seemed to have their little niche that they do every year to raise money, and I didn't. And so one time, and I love going on ghost tours when I'm on vacation. I always seek them out. So I said, gee, I wonder if I could put something together. And I already knew a lot from going to Dave Moore's presentations, who's phenomenal. So some of my information I get from him, and then I would just dig a little bit deeper. My dad died at 94. He and his friends would tell me a lot of stuff, and I'd go, oh, I can run with that. And so it was to raise money for the Lions Club, and then it just kind of grew.
The first parish cemetery on Summer Street dates back to 1716 and is a part of the tour, and Lori was kind enough to share a story about a couple of the grave sites there.
This is one of my favorite ones. There's a crypt. It's in the middle of the cemetery under the largest tree, and he was a judge. And he used to live where the Bridgewater nursing home currently is, not in that house. There was another house there. He lived there. He died there. He only lived to be 59. He died of smallpox. And the house burned down, family relocated, and they moved Judge Mitchell to the First Parish Cemetery. He's buried in a crypt. The crypts are reserved for people of honor, judges, militia, lawyers, clergymen. So you only see a few crypts there. His crypt, it's 300 years old, and the top, when I first started, the top was intact and you could read the inscription. And I think trees have fallen on it, and that's no longer true. So anyways, Judge Mitchell, known as a very prominent, wealthy, well-loved, fair man in the town. He also was a slave owner. That's where it gets interesting. So Judge Mitchell owned a man named Cuff Mitchell. And it was customary to take the name of your owner when you were a slave. So his name was Cuff Mitchell because he took Judge Mitchell's last name. That was very customary. So Cuff, he married a woman named Elizabeth Quay from East Bridgewater, also known as Lydia. And I find it interesting that her last name isn't Winslow, and I don't have an explanation for that. But he married her. They had 5 children. Cuff went away into the Revolutionary War. He fought in the war as Cuff Mitchell, and he bought his freedom when he was 35. After the war, he changed his name to Ashport. Nobody knows why, where he got the name from. Maybe it was his mother's maiden name. Nobody really knows. When he died, his wife Lydia went to apply for government benefits, but the government had never heard of Cuff Ashport. So she got the judge's children and the treasurer at the time, who was Joshua Crane, the treasurer and clerk, who was Joshua Crane, to say that Cuff Mitchell, the soldier and slave, was the same person as Cuff Ashport, soldier.
Our thanks to Lori for stopping by and sharing that story. And Lori also wanted to thank 3 other groups: the Paranormal Reaper Investigators, the Scare Your Pants Off podcast, and the Hometown Ghost Stories podcast as well. As you heard, 100% of the proceeds go to charity, which is always great to see. And it's interesting seeing Bridgewater's place in history, which goes back well over 300 years.
Yeah.
Now, for the first time, Lori had a tour for those that can't move around easily through the grave sites. That presentation included slideshows and more stories, as well as some mysteries. Now, depending on when you're watching this, you can get more information on the event on October 30th by emailing the address that we have for you at the bottom of the screen. Let's get a check of the forecast now from the Tin Man, who I hope for his sake is not facing a soggy outlook.
No, because I lost his oil can.
Yeah, he's going to rust.
Oh well.
Well, yes, Scarecrow and Dorothy. It's dry right now as we walk the yellow brick road, but we do have the risk of the Tin Man getting a little rusty here by the time we get to Halloween night. Now, hopefully, the rain will come in after we trick-or-treat. We do have a few days, so there's still a chance. We've had some spooky weather events here in Halloween's recently. We can go back to that nor'easter back in 2011. You may remember that snowed out a lot of Halloween events around here. And of course, this is the 10th anniversary, believe it or not, of Superstorm Sandy back in 2012, which of course paralyzed a lot of the Northeast, canceling Halloween for many communities. And then we all remember 2020. That was quite an odd year, of course. And we had 4 to 8 inches of snow back on October 30th of 2020, which certainly made for some cold trick-or-treating for those who dared to do it back 2 years ago. Nothing like that going on right now. We have had some rain the last few days. Most of that activity has moved offshore, but there's still some activity hanging around Bermuda and down towards the Caribbean, which we're going to have to monitor here as we go through the next few days. But as far as our weekend, high pressure is really taking over here, and that's going to be with us for Friday, Saturday, and I think a good chunk of Sunday. And then the weather starts to get interesting here for your Halloween, as I think we'll have a few showers coming in early in the day. There may be a break. That's what we're hoping for. And then some steadier rains may come in here Halloween night. If we're lucky, it'll be after the trick-or-treating, but you know what, we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that and monitor as we go through the weekend. One thing is for sure, though, it will be a cooler weather here. The humidity that we've had the last several days is moving out, and we're going to have temperatures in the upper 20s by Saturday morning. Enjoy your Halloween, everybody.
Planning for Halloween costumes can start months ahead or maybe right before you go out and trick-or-treat.
These ones took a little while to put together.
Yep.
And they can be fun, scary, or maybe just taking something out of the world of pop culture. Google Trends Fright Guys released its top costume trends, and starting at number 10 is Harley Quinn. Number 9, we have a cowboy. Number 8 on the list is a cheerleader. Coming in at 7 is a rabbit, followed by a pirate at 6. Probably not a Pittsburgh pirate. This one's probably actually successful at what it does.
And, you know, unlike the Pittsburgh Pirates, appears in the month of October.
Number 5, we have a fairy, with the Netflix show Stranger Things taking the 4th spot. At 3, there's a dinosaur. Spider-Man is 2nd, and the most popular costume is a witch. I think I saw a House Fallen one somewhere back on that brick road back there.
Yep, and you have another one to take care of later.
Ooh.
Locally, the top 5 has a little shakeup, with a witch being at the 5th spot. At 4 is a vampire, and 3 is Spider-Man. Number 2 features the classic Chucky, and number 1 is from the local costumes is something Jeff is familiar with, the 1980s.
Ah, yes. Yes, he is old. We found that out. The Monday Night Football game where the Patriots choked. Got to hear about the quarterback issues they have back in the 80s and 90s.
Right. Not that we remember.
Nope. Read about it in the history book.
Hopefully you enjoyed this Halloween special, and we thank you for watching.
It's always a fun show to film, but I think it's time to go back home. So, Dorothy, go ahead and do your thing.
What thing?
You know, that ruby slipper, I want to go home, clap it 3 times.
Yeah, it wasn't in the budget this year, unfortunately.
That's kind of awkward. How do we get home now?
I don't know.
Happy Halloween.